Welcome back. It's nice to have you come. Today I was going to talk about how Jesus not only spoke to demons, but also had control and power over them. This series or this whole section that I've been doing here is all about spiritual warfare. And we've talked in great length about spiritual warfare and how the enemy works. I don't want to give highlight to Satan all the time because it's through Jesus Christ and his blood and the love he hung on that cross for us and the power we have because of his shed blood on the cross, that we have dominion and power over the enemy. And a lot of people don't understand that. And today I'm going to delve into the scriptures and talk about the power that we truly possess and how Jesus had complete power over the enemy and the demons. And there are demons. This might be a little bit different study. It's going to be a little bit different study this time. It's not meant to be harsh or anything, but it is to show that we have encounters with evil spirits more often than you could even imagine in our everyday life. So today I want to delve into it. It's been around since the beginning of time. We see it and we hear about it daily through the media, through newscasts, and wherever we go to get our information. All we have to do is turn on the radio or news, and we're bombarded with the evil things that people do against each other and how much hate and division there is in our nation. You don't even have to be a rocket scientist to see it. The dividing line now is just so apparent. It's just so apparent, and it's looking like evil's prevailing, but in reality, it's not. It began in the early 60s when it started to grow about spiritual warfare, when people started realizing that there was demons and all of this was going around in the world. It became something that you started seeing even on TV. When I was a kid, it was very subtle, and it started out with shows. It was Family Hour back in the day, and it was called I Dream of Jeannie. It was a cute show. Everybody liked it. Then we came out with Bewitched, and we had little half-hour shows once a week, and people really liked it. But you go from the 60s till now, over the last 40 years, it's a much larger part of our entertainment genre. We have pictures, it's not even talking about iDream. Now we have Buffy the Vampire, we've got the occult, we've got, you name it, it is a draw to people. They want to see the power, and they like to see the evil things that are being gone and being done in the world. And it's all out there to have us be jaded by what Satan's really doing in our world. We watch it as entertainment anymore. But in reality, it's reality. It's not just entertainment, it's real. And he has his way into us through that medium of TV and the media. Hollywood realized this many years ago, and that people were drawn to the darkness and evil, and they have made billions of dollars off of that genre. People are fascinated and drawn to the power of the evil one. And Hollywood cashed in on it with the first movie ever was The Exorcist. And that was back in the early 70s. I remember going to see it. I was just relatively new into getting into Christianity. I couldn't even watch the movie. The whole time I was at the movie, I just kept my head. I couldn't even watch it. There was something in my spirit I couldn't watch. But it was the first movie that ever brought forth the exorcism that Catholic Church does do. But it brought to highlight what was going on, and people it was talked about for years, that movie. It still is. It was the Hallmark movie that started the whole genre of warfare. And it sparked an interest in the dark side of the spiritual realm. But we never really get the other side of it. When people hear about Jesus, they go, oh yeah, we know about Jesus. But they don't realize that Jesus is the reason we have warfare. It is God. Satan he was so prideful he thought he could be higher than God. And that is where the battle started. It started in heavenlies. We hear about that. I'm not going to go that far in this Bible study. I'm just going to use a couple of instances in the Bible to show you that demons and Satan is real, and it has dialogue with us. Years later, I watched a movie. This is after I became a Christian many years later. And it was a movie that had such an impact on me. I had to watch it again. It was just amazing, and it was never really a big box office hit, surprisingly, no, because it really portrayed how Satan operates and works through a lawyer in the movie, because he was unaware and he got caught up in the lies of how Satan operates so innocently in this man's life. The movie was called The Devil's Advocate. It was with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. Al Pacino plays Satan, and Keanu Reeves is the person that Satan used. And it is an amazing movie. If you can get it on, I mean, you can watch it, get it. I would highly recommend. If you want to watch how Satan really works, that's the movie to watch. It is the only movie I've ever seen that depicts what goes on, and it amazed me that it was not a box office hit. In one realm, in the human realm, it surprised me, but in the spiritual realm, I knew it wouldn't make it because it was too real. It really showed you what happens. It's amazing. It's very eye-opening. As much as The Exorcist was, so is The Devil's Advocate. Satan is not an amateur when it comes to deceiving and luring people into his trap. He's been doing it for 1,000 years, and you alone cannot win the battle with him. We do not have the strength in ourselves to fight Satan. He's a pro at what he does. It is only through the blood of Christ that we have the power to overcome him. He is very strategic, and he has plans when to appropriate time to strike and hit you. And usually that's when HALT, H-A-L-T, like we've talked before, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. When Satan sees you worn down, that's when he comes in and he really nails you. And if you really watch like Animal Kingdoms, if you look at a lion or cougars, wherever they want to get their prey, there might be 1,000 antelope or wildebeest running, but they sit back, like it says in the Bible, Satan sits back and prowls around like a roaring lion. They sit and they watch people. They watch the animals, and then they look for the weakest link. And that's when the cougar or the lion will take off and go get the youngest one or the lame one or the oldest one, because they look for the one that is weak. And that's what Satan does in the world. He waits, and he waits for you to get to a weak point, and that's when he pounces on you, because you're not yourself. You're not in your full capacity of thinking straight. Today, people are very aware and know that Satan has a source of power. Why? Because we've seen it or heard it through stories or somebody else's life. Most people don't realize that Jesus is the only person who has all power over everything, even Satan, especially Satan. Satan can only operate at a limited level, which is all part of what we're going to be talking about here today. I've said before in earlier sessions that when Jesus began his public ministry, he was 30 years old, and he got baptized by John the Baptist. And then immediately in Matthew 4:1, he was led up by the Spirit of God into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Now that's the one verse I really wanted to talk about here a little bit, to realize that Jesus got baptized. The dove landed on his shoulder. God spoke from heaven and said, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." Immediately the Holy Spirit sent Jesus into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan. Very specific reason why Jesus went in there. Why did Jesus have to go in there? Because he had to be tempted to be like us humans, because he was God, but he was all human too. He left his deity when he became flesh. But he went into the wilderness to be tempted just like you and I. When a lot of people say, well, God doesn't know what I'm going through. Oh, he does know what he's going through. He fasted for 40 days. Can you imagine? Could you go without food, fast for 40 days? How weak and how tired you get. And this is when Satan was there 3 times to tempt him to short circuit what God wanted him to do, to give us the power and to die on the cross, save us from our spiritual death, and give us the power to overcome Satan. When we read that account, it tells you that he tempted him 3 times. Satan talked to Jesus in the wilderness, and they had a conversation, just like you and I are listening here talking. I mean, I'm not talking you. I don't get to hear you talk, but you get to hear my conversation with you. Jesus was talking to a real being. It wasn't a spirit in the sky, because Satan came to him on 3 different occasions and said, "Turn these stones into bread." He was talking to Jesus, and Jesus talked back to him. Satan uses people just like God uses people. When we read the Bible and we talk, or we see a good pastor or something, Jesus, the Lord is talking through people, and the enemy uses people to do his deeds too. And this is where the warfare comes in. That's why if you've ever been a Christian here, God loves the sinner, but not the sin, because we're all people. We all sin. We all have spirits in us. But the spirit of Satan is not for good, it's for evil, and it's to dismay and hurt people. Jesus had many encounters with Satan and his demonic spirits. It was not an uncommon occurrence back in Jesus' day, nor is it in foreign countries. When you get back in Africa, or you get back in some of the India and some of these other countries where people, they do witchcraft, they do sorcery. I mean, they know evil spirits. I mean, they know, and they're afraid. People cast spells on people, put curses on people. It's all real. That is real things that are going on in this world. Here in America, in Western culture, we don't see that so blatantly like they do in other countries. This is why we don't really see the power of God like other countries do. Like when we send missionaries off to Africa, they can fight the battle with the enemy through warfare. But here in America, we don't see it. So we're kind of jaded to really what's going on here. And that is why our world where we're living in our America here is so chaotic now and so divided. That's the enemy at work firsthand. I mean, you see it every day, we run into it. But it wasn't uncommon back in Jesus's day, but we don't see that dramatic encounters here like they do in other countries. So we don't get to tap into the power to overcome the enemy. But the enemy is just as powerful here, but it's just in a different way. It's very subtle here. It's through people and the media and the disguise and the deceit and the hidden agendas of people saying, oh, I like this. Have you ever had a friend that you thought was really your friend? And what they were really trying to do is get all the available information about you and then turn around and use it against you? That's Satan. That's demonic. We might say, oh, it's a friend betrayed me. Oh, no. That was a strategic step that somebody tried to do to disrupt it. And it doesn't usually just happen once. I know in my life, like I said, I've been married many times. And I'm not saying they're all were evil people, but let me tell you, they knew my spirit and they were trying to destroy me. And God used it, just like in Joseph's day. Joseph said his brothers betrayed him. And when he was confronted with his brothers 30 years later, he says, what you meant for harm, God meant for good. So God used all of my pain and all of my divorce, all of my loss for a good thing. This is an outcropping of that. I learned warfare through it. And it's to help other people to understand. It is alive and well today, and it is to destroy our mind and our self-esteem, so many things. And people just don't realize that. So today we're going to go into that right now about how the enemy used people to do other things to other people. I'm only going to use a couple of encounters today. One of it is in the Gospel of Mark. Jesus and his disciples in Mark 4 went to cross over the sea to the other side. But they encountered a very strong storm in the ocean. They were in the Sea of Galilee, I believe. And a storm came up. So the disciples got really scared. I guess it was a strong storm. Jesus just happened to be sleeping. So they got scared. They woke up Jesus. And when they woke him up, he calmed the wind and the storm. And they talked amongst each other after he did it, like, who is this man that even the wind and the seas obey him? I mean, they've seen Jesus do a lot of stuff. Feed about 5,000 people with 4. But this particular miracle that Jesus did, it shocked them. Like, well, who is he? Even the winds and the storms would betray him or listen to him. Then when they got to the other side, while they were getting out of the boat in Mark 5, 2 through 20, I would highly recommend you reading Mark 5. When they had come out of the boat, immediately there met them a man out of the tombs, a man with an unclean spirit. which means he was demon possessed. He lived out there alone, dwelling among the tombs. No one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound and shackled and with chains, and he had pulled them apart by himself, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. Always at night and day, I'm not here to listen to this one. Always at night and day, the mountains, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. So we think cutting, people that cut themselves, we think that that's a common, not common, but a new thing. It's been going around in biblical days. That is one of the side effects of a demonic spirit within us trying to harm us. When he saw Jesus, he ran and he worshiped him, and he cried out with a loud voice, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" Here you see, the demon inside this man knew who Jesus was, and he knew that Jesus had power. He goes, "Why are you here? I implore you, by that you do not torment me." So the demon knew that Jesus could torment him and get rid of him. Then Jesus said to him, now this is Jesus talking back. This is dialogue. So we're not talking about a make-believe story here. This is Jesus and Satan talking through this man. Satan is talking through the man. Jesus is talking to the spirit through the man. Come out of the man, unclean spirit. Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Also, he begged him earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. The demons are saying, "Don't send us out." Now, a large herd of swine were feeding near the mountainside. So all the demons begged him, "Send us into the swine." They knew they were going to be cast out. They didn't want to just be thrown out into the, send us into the swine, because I'm not going to go into the deep part of that, but that's where they went. That we may enter them. Because when a demon leaves one, it will attach itself to somebody else or something else. And then in verse 13, and at once Jesus gave them permission, and the unclean spirits went out and entered the pigs or the swine. There were about 2,000 pigs or swine eating on the mountainside. Remember, it said, "My name is Legion, for we are many." 2,000 demons. We're not talking one or two, in one man. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea, and they drowned in the sea. Verse 15, the disciples came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon possessed and had the legions in him, sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. The apostles were afraid of what they saw. So you want to talk about power? And that Jesus is weak, and who's Jesus? He's just this frail, meek little man. Jesus is full of power. And when he comes back in the book of Revelation, he will be the reigning Messiah, and he will be fighting back. And he will take back everything Satan had in this world. In Matthew 17, verses 14 through 17, "Lord, have mercy." This is another encounter. "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and suffers severely. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him." Then Jesus answered and said, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me." So now Jesus was kind of rebuking the people as well as his disciples, like, how long? How faithless are you? You've seen me do these things. Why can't you do this? He was kind of rebuking them in a way. And then in verse 18, and Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately after he did the miracle and everything subsided. "Why could we not cast it out?" And in verse 20, Jesus said, "Because of your unbelief." First and foremost, they didn't have enough belief. "But I say to you, if you had faith as a mustard seed." A mustard seed is probably, I don't know if you can see this on my finger, as big as that. I actually have one in my bathroom. I could get one and everything. But this is how big a mustard seed is. So it doesn't take a lot of faith to believe. You will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it shall be moved, and nothing will be impossible for you. And then in verse 21, Jesus said, however, this kind does not go out except through prayer and fasting. Jesus had the power to do it because he was Jesus. But for us laymen or people that aren't, we need to know how to pray and to fast before we're able to cast out certain demons, because some of them have different strengths and attachments, strongholds to us. I hope this isn't scaring people, because this is something I just really felt led, because we're doing these spiritual warfare, and I've noticed on the algorithms, I say that wrong, but people seem to be more interested when I talk about the enemy versus God. So I really felt that we need to have specific instances, which I've not done thus far because I think they're a little strong for people. But I think it was really time to talk about that, because if you really want to overcome and be set free from the enemy in your life and your thoughts and the ruts that we have in our life, all of those are part of the enemy. We call it demonic because it's not of God. It's of the Satan. If it's of the evil, it's demonic. It doesn't necessarily mean like demonic, like people are crazy, but it is demonic. Its roots are from Satan, and that's why we say demonic. It sounds a lot harsher than it really. Well, it is harsh, but it's not spiritual like with God. It's not faith-based. It's very rooted in destruction. Always destruction. You're never going to see a demonic spirit doing something great. That you're not going to ever find. It is only the Spirit of God, the Spirit of light. You've got the Spirit of light. You've got the Spirit of darkness. Light does good. Light sets people free. Light helps people. Darkness just keeps you going down, down, down. I felt led to do this and to understand the warfare better, to understand warfare and what it looks like in everyday life. I'm reading my notes because I really want to stay on track here. It's real. It has a purpose, yet it is so overlooked, and it is not really talked about in the Bible, in the churches. The churches might read a verse or two about it, but they don't delve into it because it's harsh and it reveals issues that are hard to accept and to teach on. I'm not going to say this is an easy subject to talk about. I have studied it for over 25, 30 years. So I'm more able to talk about it in an everyday type environment. But if you're going to church and people are sitting there, this is something that is scary to people. It also has a lot of baggage and negativity attached to it, be due to what the churches did and how they handled it centuries ago. Because somebody, this isn't on my notes, but women, I had PMS severe. And I had to go to psychiatrists. I took shots. I gave myself shots because a lot of it had to do with diet. But mentally, I was like a crazy woman, almost 16 days a month. I only had 5 days a month that I was normal after I had my daughter. It was terrible what I went through. And I would go through that for 15 years. And one time I went to this psychiatrist or this shrink, and they were saying that the reason that PMS, to the degree that I had it, well, PMS period, but I had it at a very high, 100%. I mean, I was off the charts with PMS. But the doctors did help me. I was like 50% better. But he said the reason it's not in the psychological books as a disorder, because people could go to court and take children away from their mothers. That's how bad PMS is. PMS to me is straight from Satan. It's hormonal. Yes, it is. It's for your hormones and dysregulation. But the depths of how I had it, it was like I was not even myself. And I used to say it. I used to always tell my daughter, honey, it's not you. It's me. So please don't think this is you. Ask my daughter to this day that I used to say that to her all the time, because it was terrible, 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 terrible. And that was demonic. And he used all my baggage of all my hurts and pains, and emotionally every month when you have your periods. I mean, it was terrible. I can't express to you the anguish and what I went through for so many years. And that's why this is so important to me, to talk to people, because you do not have to succumb to that. It took me years to find this out. This was after, I mean, after my PMS that I started finding out about warfare. But trust me, there's a book out. You want to talk? It helped me a lot. It was called Emotional Phases of a Woman. And it talked about a woman back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I thought it was a new book. But witches that were burnt at the stakes, I believe a lot of them had PMS. After what I had encountered and what I had to live through, it's amazing how the enemy, but that's the baggage that I came with warfare, because Satan just changes your whole demeanor. It's just amazing. Anyway, demons and their activity were not an uncommon sight in biblical days. They were very aware of them and dealt the best they could with them. But Jesus started to be known for his ability to cast them out of people. So the Pharisees in Matthew, because those were the head leaders of the Hebrew nations. I mean, they were like the president with the Pharisees. In Matthew chapter 9, Jesus was going around healing, casting out demons, bringing people back to life. But the religious Pharisees tried to discredit him because so many people were following them, and they were losing control over their churches, or whatever you want to call them, because they knew that Jesus had power. So they said in Matthew 9:32 through 34, in verse 34, he cast out demons by the rulers of demons. So they were going around saying, oh, he's casting demons out because he is a demon. And in Matthew 12, Jesus knew what they were trying to say. So he said to them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself will not stand. If Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How will his kingdom ever stand? And if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, I can't say it, by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore, they shall be your judges. But if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, surely the kingdom of God has come upon you. And Jesus he did bring the kingdom of God when he was born. He changed that's why we have the New Testament, Old Testament, because he took away the Old Testament way of life and he gave a new covenant with his blood. So he did come upon you. So it did change. That's why we have power over the demons. Jesus is the only one and the only name that can overcome Satan and the destruction that comes from him. Christians as well as non-Christians seek to think of Jesus as a weak, soft-spoken man that walked on earth, wouldn't cause any problems, or wouldn't fight back. But he is the strongest, most powerful of all. And it was always in control of every situation he was even in, even hanging on the cross. He hung there in love to save us. Today we think strength is displayed in huge numbers, in riots, destructive behavior, or large confrontations. But real strength is found in humility, and great power grows from humility. Spiritual warfare is around us every day. It is the only reason that I am doing these videos. I prayerfully hope that they are helping people realize that the situations they're in or keep falling in aren't just a mistake or their fault, and that you usually can trace its roots in this battle somehow to Satan, because he is well aware of every good and bad thing that you have ever encountered up to this point in your life, and he will use them against you to keep you from moving ahead and achieving your dreams and hopes, and to give you God's peace. The Bible is packed full of healing and examples of people who walk to freedom. If you want to be set free, if you want to be set free from what is holding you back, find a story in the Bible that you can relate to and study it. The path is there if you want to learn from it. Jesus is our Savior, and he came to this earth to love, teach, and to lead us to a life of victory. He died for you and me. We all have access to him. He will teach, comfort, and help you understand any and every emotion you could ever experience because he suffered as many times as you have. He knows what loneliness is. He knows what everything is. He knows what pain is, separation from his father. So many things that people just don't realize. I'm going to end here. It is my prayer that this session has opened your heart and your eyes to see that you don't have to do it alone. There's everybody in this world has a problem, and we all can go and seek help if we want it. Jesus is always so close, right there for you. All you have to do is ask him to come in, and he will respond so quickly to your request. And I would say, if you would like, there's a little prayer you can say, but you have to mean it in your heart and just say, Jesus, I don't even know if you're real, but if you are, I would really like you to come into my life and help me battle and get through the things I need to get through and teach me your way and to give me your peace and set me free from the bondages that I live in. And if you just say that prayer truthfully in your heart and you really mean it, he'll come. You've given him access to start help cleaning out all that's holding you back. I thank you so much for listening to this. I pray it's helped you, and I hope I can get some kind of response from this to let me know that this is something you want to hear more about, you want to delve further in. I'm going to be talking more into this as we go along in these studies anyway. But it would really help me a lot to know on which avenue to go down. So have a great week. God bless, and we'll see you next week.